You are listening to Her Time to Retire, a podcast dedicated to helping women gain the knowledge, confidence, and support they need to achieve financial success and emotional fulfillment when planning for retirement. If you are ready to finally take charge of your financial life, then keep listening. Your hosts are Glenn Price and Jonathan Scott, founders of Keystone Financial Resources in Brentwood, Tennessee. Both men specialize in crafting individualized retirement plans for women and have a passion for helping women discover and achieve their retirement goals. Glenn is a husband and father of 4 who was taught early in life through his relationship with his grandmother how a woman can not only take charge of her own destiny, but also positively influence the lives of her family and friends that surround her. Jonathan, husband and father of 3, attributes his own success to the strong women in his life, including his wife Brooke and his mother Suzanne. Both men together want to help more women live out their dreams in retirement. As always, if you have retirement questions, their phone lines are open at 615-661-9554, or you can visit their website to browse information, view upcoming events, or subscribe to the Her Time to Retire weekly newsletter. Just visit www.keystonefinancialresources.com. Now relax and enjoy the conversation.
Well, I want to welcome everyone to Her Retirement Podcast, where we teach and empower women how to take control of their finances and their destinies. My name is Glenn Price, co-founder of Keystone Financial Resources, and my business partner, Jonathan, he is out with his family today, and so he's not going to be with us, but I'm so excited because on this podcast, ladies, the reason we actually started this podcast is because we really wanted to speak to things that you're interested in, speak to things that you're concerned about, to help you, not just money, but things in life. And so I'm so excited about our guest today and having her here. Once she agreed, I got so excited. Her name's Tammy Dickenson, and Tammy is director of Abide Counseling and Ministry, actually in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. She's been a licensed counselor for over 25 years. She's practiced faith-based counseling, facilitates intensive-based therapy groups, and teaches on various topics, including the truth about our feelings, understanding healthy versus unhealthy coping, spiritual aspects of mental health, learning to be still and abide in Christ. She's recently written her first book, Stripped Away, that is set to release early July of this year. Tammy, welcome to our podcast. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you, Glenn. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Well, I wanted to, I'm fascinated by, what you do and, your heart into understanding women as well as men, and as they, learn how to communicate and just relate to each other and just life itself. And so, I wanted to talk a little bit about this morning on our podcast, just some things that we're seeing as a result of the COVID-19, right? I mean, it's kind of forced us into this place of isolation. And, we were talking earlier before we started about relationship and how the way we're designed, it's all about relationship, right?
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing and kind of, how you're, helping families or helping women cope and what direction or things that you would, talk to them about.
So we are in unique times right now with so many things that are unsettled and unpredictable, and everything we've held on to, is slipping. Our structure, our jobs, our things that we would have held on to for security. And so I think all of us are going through a season of figuring out what matters to us, what's important to us, what is really, really most meaningful. And so I think for women, we tend to carry the world on our shoulders. Women are helpmates. We have a heart for the home and a heart for the people that we love. And we carry a whole lot on our shoulders. And so during this time, not only are we continuing to do that, but then trying to manage what is happening with this virus, what's happening in the world around us. So needless to say, anxiety and mental health issues, they're exacerbated right now.
Yeah, they really are. You know, I was talking to a client just, very recently, and this lady, I've been working with her and her husband for, almost 15 years now, and she's so strong, she's so smart, she's sharp as a tack, always on top of everything, and even in all of our meetings, when we built their financial plan, she's always prepared and always ready when we do our reviews. And I love that, that she takes the initiative and she's just in it, And so, but this year, she lost her husband. We're never ready for that. He'd been sick, but still, we're never really ready for that, right? And so, but because she still had people around her.
Yes.
Her church family, her neighbors, just good friends that loved on her and was there for her. I was just amazed at how she still was able to shine. Because I talked with her and she still had that sparkle in her eye, and she was very still sharp because we had to go over her financial things, obviously, and she was still very much in it, in the game. But then this COVID thing hit.
Yes.
And so we were forced to this place of isolation that we were talking about. And so now she's finding herself alone, and she's very, very lonely. She fell into a place of depression where she lost interest in everything. Talk to us about that, because you were talking about how that's real, right?
It's real. It's so real. I think that it becomes, you get to a point, I joke sometimes as a therapist with my clients, it's like, do you want to change seats for a few minutes because it's heavy? As a therapist, I've been heavy, I've been down. All day long I try to stay up, and I believe that there's so much hope. Hope is always available, through our relationship with Christ. But these are heavy, heavy, heavy times. And so, again, in the isolation, there is loneliness. There are things that are revealed in that isolation that you really maybe were not even aware of. Distraction is a real thing. And a little bit of distraction is a great thing. But too much, we're so tied into doing things that we feel are so, so important. And so in that isolation, there are wounds, there are broken places, there are things that we've not dealt with that begin to come out. And it can be extremely overwhelming. Moments, and I have people in my life, strong women, who I have looked up to and thought, wow, and this has taken a toll on them. They haven't lost the spark, but they don't know exactly what to do. And so I think for all of us, in those quiet places, we really, people ask me often, how has this affected you the most? And I said, you know what? It has given me a season of such reflection. Who am I? What matters to me? What does my faith really look like? What do I really believe? Where do I have now an opportunity to do things differently? So it is a season of reflection. It's a season that's difficult and overwhelming, but ultimately it is a season where we're going to be able to step back into life very, very intentional and very purposeful in how we move forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think, I've talked to so many families, and I know you probably have too, where, they talk about having dinner, with their family again. And, just the conversations, because, when no one can go out, then I know that our kids, they're, I've got teenagers in the house, and, before they were never around, it seemed like, and now it's like they're always around, but they're not anxious, they weren't anxious to leave because they couldn't, right?
Right.
And so, it forces us to, and it even helped me even see that, what? I got some work I need to do with some of my relationships.
Yes. It provides an opportunity. And I think one of the things that's so important to realize is that I think one of the lies that are out there is that if we allow ourselves to feel our pain, we're going to fall onto the floor and we're going to fall apart and we're never going to get back up again. But that is not true. It's not true. You may fall apart and you may fall onto the floor and it might be overwhelming, but as you allow yourself to release it to God and to people in your life, and sometimes it's just you and God by yourself, and those moments are moments that have become very sweet to so many of us because we've been so busy, we haven't found them.
Right.
But if we will allow ourselves to really look at ourselves, fall apart a little bit, because the truth is we're all falling apart a little bit. Looking at those things, and then when we are able, we will stand back up and be able to know who we are more, again, know what's most important to us, and be so much more intentional about how we live and also how we love.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, it's even in my own home, you know, and with my kids and family, you know, again, it just like you said, it forces you to see things. But what I also have noticed that in those quiet times, right, when you're alone and you're thinking, and you know, there's things in life that trigger us. You know, we'll see something or a conversation, and you know, a phone call or something from someone, a family member, or you know, whatever, and you know, and then there's just this feeling of fear that comes in, and then it's amazing how when I allow that fear to come in, how I start having all these different thoughts and ideas, these preconceived ideas about, hey, you know, I got a text this weekend, and you know, from a family member. You know, it's, you know, Father's Day's coming up, and we have different family members. You know, and sometimes with family, you know, it can be stressful.
Yes,
and,
it can be.
And so, but you know, I started reading the text. I'm like, what do they mean by that? And I felt this fear because it took me down this road. You know, because there's a past with this person, and but I was able to talk it out with my wife. And I picked up the phone and said, hey, I don't want to assume anything, but what was that? Here's what I felt.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it opened up a conversation by not retreating from the fear, right? But seeing it and saying, okay, I'm going to do something. I'm going to acknowledge this, and I may not be on the right path in what I'm thinking, but I don't have to assume and attack, right? But I asked the question. And I was amazed at how the family member on the other end responded. And you know, 45 minutes later on the phone, I hung up, felt closer to them. You know, Martha was a part of the conversation. She felt closer.
Yes.
And it was something that needed to happen.
Yes.
So, you know, talk about this fear. You know, I think you said earlier in our conversation, you know, fear's a liar. Talk a little bit about that.
It is, not to forget the fellow that sings that song, but not to quote his lyrics, but fear is a liar. It will lie to you. It will cause you to believe things that are just not true, and it takes you back. So I think for all of us, when we are overcome with fear, we have to step back and we have to examine, what are we thinking? What are the thoughts that are there? And one of the things I teach people all the time is you can't stop necessarily a feeling. If you have a feeling, the best thing to do is just have the feeling. They're not right or wrong, they just are. But having those feelings, but then stepping back and examining your thoughts, examining the thinking, and then that will understand, because you can change your thinking. You can change your thinking. And so pay attention to what that's about. And like you said, it is typically a trigger. And things that happen in this world trigger all of us. You know, I thought for years, and I think it's natural to think, avoid a trigger. But I'm just the opposite at this point in my life. When I'm triggered, I recognize it's something in me that needs to be dealt with. It's some place that God wants to refine me and teach me something. So he reveals, I've heard this said, he reveals to heal. Yeah. So those triggers, when they come up, stepping back and really looking in the mirror and saying, what's going on with me? What's going on with me? Why did that hurt? Why did I respond in fear to that? You know, another thing about fear that is so meaningful to me is because I spent many years having a lot of fear. Is God has been really showing me that it's not so much a fear problem. It's a problem that I want to kind of control everything. I want to be able to control everything that's happening, and we're at a season where that is absolutely impossible. And if I can control it, I'm not afraid. So recognizing now that as I am willing to let go and actually let God have it, be honest with how I'm feeling, then in those places He will take that and that fear, because we can't control. And as women, we have so many things to do, so many plates to juggle. But learning to let go, I have never found anything that has brought me more peace and more relief from fear. I mean, it's cast out when you let go. But learning to let go and truly let God, because the things that we hold on to when we let go, it's what He says, let go and I'll take care of it. Oh, and He does over and over and over. But it's that process of learning to let go. When in places we've let things go and maybe someone hasn't called us or someone has not been there for us, so we learn to hold it really tightly. So it's a gift in some ways that we can't control everything now.
It really is. Gosh, you've said so many things at my mind, so many things are going through my mind, but this idea of, taking on the posture of a learner. Because it's like, none of us are perfect. We all have our stories. We all have, our dysfunctional families, and
Everyone.
We all do. But we want to cover that up. But it's really about developing a skill set, and being aware of these things.
Yes.
And that is, I had a very dysfunctional childhood. It was chaos. And what I did is that you said something a while ago. You said, when you're in control, when you think you're in control, or you're trying to control something, you're not afraid. Which really a lie.
Yes.
It's deceptive, because all that is really just it's a defense mechanism.
Yes.
It's something how you've learned how to deal in life, and it's not honest. It's not authentic, because it's not the truth.
It's absolutely not. It's that old saying, denial can be bliss, but it's that place where really you just can't see. We don't know what we don't know. You just don't see what's happening, and it's wreckage all around.
It's wreckage all around.
But you can't see it because you've got this.
Yep. And so that kind of leads my thoughts into this idea of community, and how important community is. We're coming, we're not out of the woods yet with the this pandemic,
Yes.
but this too shall pass, right?
Yes.
And we are going to get on the other side of this. We are going to become stronger, I believe.
Yes.
For those of us who are paying attention, and hopefully we're all learning something through this. But we will get through it.
I want to say something about what you said about being a learner. I say often to people, and I've had to take my own advice. It's good to take your own advice. God reminds me and convicts me quite often of, if I'm going to say something, am I living that? And the idea of having a teachable heart. And I thank God for my children and for people in my life who see things differently. Things that I might rise up against or be defensive about. I said, God, teach me. Take that from me. Jesus was never defensive. He never defended. And so this idea of being a learner and having a teachable heart and really listening and growing and changing and taking in consideration that the way that I see it may actually not be accurate at all. Parts of it probably. But if I can hear you and you can hear me, if I can share with you my perspective and you share yours, then we both, it's a win for both of us. So
it really is. You talk about perspective, and I think that, at least in my own story, my perspective was clouded by the filters for which I look through.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's like the lenses. I wear glasses, so you could the lens that I look through, and those filters and those lenses are clouded by lies, wrong
Yes.
beliefs,
Yes.
right? And so, just because I believe something, I heard my pastor say, just because you believe something doesn't make it true. And so, that being a learner, being in a community of people, having people in your life, that's one thing that's helped me. I heard somebody say a long time ago, who you are, 5 years from now will depend on who you hang around and the books that you read. There's a lot of truth in that, and so being able to develop that community coming out of this season, I think, is
Yes.
really important.
Community. We hear the word accountability a lot, and I love accountability. Accountability it's priceless. Now you have to. It doesn't just happen. You have to be willing to be held accountable, and I think it's so meaningful. But how can there be accountability if there's no community? And community is where it starts. As I do groups and gather people together, when you watch people who come together in a community, or whether it be a group or a family or a Bible study, when people come together and they actually start sharing their hearts with each other, you go from that place of, I must be the only one who thinks like this, or the only one that feels this. And when you
so true.
communicate with another
That's
woman
so
or another
true.
person, and they go, no, you know what, I feel like I'm failing as a mom, or I feel like I'm failing, or I feel like I haven't managed things well. When you hear that from another person, it changes everything. Two are better than one.
Oh,
And when you walk together, and so, as I often, when I'm doing groups, I ask people, what's the most meaningful thing about this? And it's never what I'm teaching, not that some of those things aren't valuable, but it is coming together with other people, 2 by 2 by 2, sitting and sharing and talking with each other and being authentic and real, speaking the truth in love. And that leads to that community, and that care leads to that accountability. How you doing with that? Let me hold you accountable. Can I call you each week? Let's talk about that. So community, and just aware, our family, just for me, the value of people, and then not being able to hug people.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
It's like, you matter to me. I don't think I told you that enough.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So I can't say enough about
Well, when
community.
you can learn, the feelings of the heart. There's a gentleman that I'm fortunate to have in my life, Dr. Chip Dodd, and he wrote a book called Voices of the Heart. And when you learn to hear the voices in your heart,
Yes.
and identify those, it's like oh my gosh, it's freeing. But it's also, the world can become a very lonely place. We're talking about loneliness, because lonely in the sense that people aren't telling the truth. They're not living authentically. And when you're with them, they're not present with you. And it's hard for you to be present with them because we don't know how to tell the truth, right?
Yes.
About what's really going on inside. And so it's like this captive, this prisoner that's locked up, that is not able to really be who we were made to be. Right. And so when you can learn that, it's amazing how much more meaningful relationships are. But also, again, identifying that, gosh, we live in a broken world.
Yes, we do.
And that's not going to change on this side of heaven, right? It's just part of the deal.
That's right.
But the more we can be in those relationships and be in those communities, it's so helpful.
Yes, and I think, you talked earlier about lies and the way we believe lies. You think about a lie. You only believe a lie. You only believe deception because you don't know it's a lie. When you recognize it's a lie, if you're my friend and you're telling me a lie, I believe it until I go, Glenn, that's not true.
not
You're like, oh yeah. And at that point, you're able to call it out. So it's really just recognizing. So when I think about a lie, I always think a lie keeps you captive and in bondage. And the truth sets you free.
Set you free.
And that word truth, and that is in this world, it's hard to find. And we won't find it in this world. But the truth in our faith and the truth in those relationships and those people who speak truth, speak from their heart, they're willing to be vulnerable and open, and they care enough to share the truth with us. So the word truth has just been in my heart for a while. It's been so reflective about that.
Well, Tammy, gosh, we could just keep talking for hours. I love talking to you. I love your heart. Just you're real, and I love that. So I'm so thankful for you willing to come and be a part of our podcast today. And I think these ladies are going to love hearing your perspective. But, we've been talking a lot about, this place of isolation and we were really kind of forced into that. But there's been some good things there. But now as we're coming out of that, let's talk about coming out, like the things that we need to be doing. Because where we end up, right, where we are 6 months from now, 12 months from now, has everything to do with what we do today and coming out of some of these places. So let's talk about coming out of some of these places, the freedom, the benefits of leaning into some of the things we've been talking about.
I think it's so, I'm a believer that we are going to see some breakthroughs. I think we're going to see some amazing things. If we keep our eyes on the circumstances, it can be overwhelming, and it is overwhelming. But we also have to remember God is able. He's gone before us. We come from victory. So thinking about the fact that we walk in that victory and that breakthrough. So I know for me and so many people that I spend time with, it's a matter of really being intentional about, as you've had this time of isolation, you've been reflective, it's been difficult, different things happening in your life that have been overwhelming and some even devastating. So for me, as it's stepping into this new season of kind of coming back into, you see the traffic, you see businesses opening, the idea of really just what does it look like to practice self-care as a woman. I don't know that we're not necessarily good at that, finding the time for that. I always joke about going to a restaurant where I pull up and they're like, it's a pleasure to see you. Like, well, thank you, and just moments like that where you're thinking, you know what, I'm not really... no one's going to come to us most of the time as women and say, hey, what can I do for you? Now, we get those blessings with friends and our husbands sometimes, and those things are sweet, but it's really, there's a sign in my doctor's office that says, your health care is not my responsibility, it's yours. And I love that. Every time I've seen her for years, every time I see it, I think I love that because it empowers me. It empowers women to say, you know what? I want to step into that, being intentional, whether it be going and spending time with people you love, whether it be volunteering, whether for me it's like, am I seeing my chiropractor enough? Am I taking care of my health? Am I exercising?
With your finances.
Am I taking care of my finances?
Yes.
Looking at, we need a community. We need people that we can trust, whether it be a financial planner or a therapist or a good friend or a mentor or a doctor, somebody. We can't do all this on our own. I got to say that again. We're not supposed to do this on our own. It's the body of Christ. It's coming together. That's powerful. Finding people, and because they are around. But like you said earlier, when there's walls up, defense mechanisms, where we isolate. That tends to be what I do. When I get overwhelmed, I cocoon. And cocooning for a brief season is actually helpful, but cocooning long term, you begin to lose yourself.
Yeah.
So stepping out, even if it's taking a walk around the block, even if it's calling someone you haven't talked to for 5 minutes, being willing to actually, for me, go outside. And look at the flowers, look at the trees, breathe. Breathe. It's something that my husband often says, Tammy, I have a sign in my office that just says, just breathe.
We take it for granted.
Oh, we take it
We
for
really
granted.
do. Well, Tammy, I think we're coming to an end, and we didn't even get to talk about your book. So guess what? We gotta have you come back.
I would
So we can talk more
love
about
to
your
come
book. I'd love
back.
to hear what
I'd love to
what
come
God's
back.
laid on your heart to write in that. And there may be some ladies out there that maybe you've said some things that have really pricked their heart, and maybe they want to talk to you. If somebody wanted to ask you a question, or call you up, make an appointment, or whatever it is, how could they reach you?
Probably the best way to reach me is just to just contact Abide Counseling and Ministry in Murfreesboro. And if you'll just click on that, it's Google search is there, and I can leave with you maybe my email and my phone number. But you're welcome, and I welcome that. If anybody wants to give a call and just ask a question.
I know that you're
come
moving
in.
into a new space.
I moved into a new space as
So
of
you're
April.
getting all that set up.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
You had a great place before, but now it's really
I've
even more
moved
special.
to
I think
to a really neat. It's a 100-year-old house downtown Murfreesboro that's
wow.
been completely
That's awesome.
remodeled.
That's
It's a
awesome.
really awesome space. So I'm excited about just what God's doing, and just thrilled to be a part of it. So
So it's called Abide Counseling and Ministry. So that's where they can find you.
That's where they
So
can find me.
if you have questions for Tammy, look her up. She's easy to talk to, as you've seen through this podcast. But again, we thank you all for paying attention and today and listening. I hope it's been very helpful. I know it's been helpful for me. I feel like do I owe you something?
no,
I feel like I've been in a counseling
yeah.
session.
Well, we'll talk about it a little later.
Okay. All right.
Thank you,
Well,
Glenn.
thank you, and talk to everyone soon.
You have been listening to Her Time to Retire with Glenn Price and Jonathan Scott. Glenn and Jonathan would love to talk to you and answer any of your retirement questions. All listeners can take advantage of a free 15-minute consultation with Glenn and Jonathan, whether via a phone call, Zoom meeting, or in person. You can schedule your consultation by calling 615-661-9554 or by visiting our website at www.keystonefinancialresources.com. Thanks for listening. The opinions expressed by Keystone Financial Resources and guests on this podcast are their own and do not reflect the opinions of this station. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Past performance cannot be used as an indicator to determine future results. Strategies mentioned may not be suitable for everyone. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. Before acting on any information mentioned, please consult with a qualified tax or investment advisor to determine if it is suitable for your specific situation. This program is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to subject covered. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, LLC, or BCM, a registered investment advisor. BCM and Keystone Financial Resources are independent of each other. Insurance products and services are not offered through BCM, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents.